Hello, and welcome to Mind Sherlock, where every story feels like a conversation over a warm cup of coffee. Today, I bring you a brand new Sherlock Holmes mystery, filled with twists, clues, and clever deductions. Make yourself comfortable, and let's unravel the case together. And if you'd like, leave a quick comment and tell me where you're joining from. It's always a pleasure to know where our little detective community is tuning in from. Now, let's get started. It was a dreary November afternoon at 221B Baker Street, the fog thick upon the streets of London and the air heavy with the promise of rain. I sat by the fire, my thoughts meandering through recent trivialities, when the house itself seemed to murmur secrets of ages past. Outside, the gaslight struggled against the gloom, and the world beyond appeared cloaked in a perpetual twilight. My friend Sherlock Holmes, ever restless even in apparent idleness, paced about the room with a measured, almost animal grace. His eyes, sharp as the finest cut crystal, reflected a mind ever engaged with the mysteries of our time. In such moments, I could not help but feel that every shadow and every sound might conceal a clue to an unfolding enigma. Thus, the setting itself whispered of impending adventures and the unyielding pursuit of truth that characterized our every endeavor with quiet certainty. I found myself increasingly distracted by Holmes's fixation on a peculiar melody, a dissonant strain that echoed repeatedly through the room. His fingers danced deftly over the strings of his cherished violin, producing notes that seemed both haunting and discordant. Though he claimed to detest such sounds, his intense concentration betrayed a deeper, secretive fascination. I could not help but interject a mild jest regarding the oddity of his repeated refrain, yet his piercing gaze silenced my light-hearted protest. In that moment, the melody itself appeared to bind our thoughts to a mystery yet unsolved, stirring the embers of anticipation within us both. Its eerie harmonies whispered secrets of peril and promise, drawing us inexorably toward the unknown with urgency. Just as our quiet musings seemed to fill the air, a sharp knock at the door shattered the silence. I rose to answer, and there, in the dim light, stood a figure swathed in a heavy cloak, his features hidden in shadow. His trembling posture and hesitant glance betrayed a deep-seated fear, as if he carried a secret too dreadful to speak aloud. In that moment, the mundane was replaced by a palpable sense of foreboding, and I sensed that fate had come knocking at our door. Every nerve in my body alerted me to his unexpected, significant arrival indeed. In the visitor's trembling hands, he clutched a curious silver violin case, its surface tarnished yet strangely alluring. I observed this oddity with growing intrigue, as Holmes's eyes immediately locked onto the case. It spoke of secrets and sorrows, a relic that might carry the weight of a forgotten tragedy. In that silent moment, I realized that this object would lead us into the labyrinth of a most baffling mystery. Its mysterious aura promised revelations beyond our wildest imaginings indeed. In that charged moment, Holmes's demeanor shifted imperceptibly. His eyes, cold and calculating, surveyed the trembling visitor with a predatory precision that sent shivers through my soul. It was as though he saw not merely a frightened man, but a puzzle brimming with hidden motives and dangerous implications. Every subtle twitch and fleeting expression was noted, each detail a piece of the grand mystery that he was destined to unravel. His unwavering focus promised to expose the truth soon indeed. Before the visitor uttered a single word, Holmes's gaze dissected every nuance of his appearance. Each subtle flaw, every unguarded gesture, was silently catalogued by his keen intellect. I marveled at the effortless precision of his deductions, as though he were assembling a complex puzzle from the fragments of a life unknown. In that quiet scrutiny, I sensed the birth of a remarkable case, and our adventure had truly begun. Lord Reginald Selby entered our sitting room with a solemnity that bespoke great personal distress. Removing his heavy cloak with trembling hands, he revealed a pale countenance marked by deep anxiety and haunted eyes that spoke of unspeakable sorrow. His aristocratic bearing, though diminished by worry, remained unmistakably refined, and I sensed that behind his fragile exterior lay burdens too weighty to endure alone. In his hesitant manner, every gesture seemed imbued with the gravity of a tragedy long concealed from the public gaze. I noted with interest the slight tremor in his hands and the lingering shadow across his face, signs of a soul tormented by loss and regret. Without uttering a word of introduction, his very presence commanded attention, drawing both Holmes and me into the orbit of a mystery that promised to be as intricate as it was sorrowful. Its enigma foretold both peril and profound revelation. Lord Selby then recounted the peculiar tale of the silver violin, a gift that arrived unexpectedly at Selby Manor. It was presented to his late wife, a celebrated musician whose talent enchanted all who heard her play. The instrument, with its shimmering silver finish and mysterious aura, was believed to possess a cursed quality from the very moment it was received. Its arrival coincided with a series of misfortunes that soon befell not only her, but also every musician who dared to touch the treasured relic. The curse, as whispered in hushed tones among the servants and townsfolk, promised doom to any who played its haunting melody. In recounting these events, Lord Selby's voice trembled with sorrow and disbelief, for he could scarcely fathom how such a beautiful object could carry such a dire fate. It was as if the violin bore a malignant spirit, a twisted destiny woven into its very strings. Thus began the lamentable saga that would come to cast a pall over our lives, intertwining artistry with a dreadful, inexplicable curse, a fate none could escape. Lord Selby recalled with palpable sorrow the day his beloved wife, whose mastery of the violin had enchanted the highest circles of society, met her mysterious end. She had played the silver violin with such passion and brilliance that the very notes seemed imbued with life, captivating every listener. Yet, after that fateful performance, an inexplicable malaise fell upon her, and she passed away under circumstances that defied all rational explanation. In the ensuing days, the house was beset by tragedies that befell those who dared to follow in her musical footsteps. Musicians who touched the cursed instrument met with untimely accidents, inexplicable illnesses, or vanishing without a trace. It was as though the violin, far from being a mere instrument, had become a vessel of doom. The grief of a widow mingled with the terror of an artistic curse, leaving the halls of Selby Manor steeped in sorrow and dread. In recounting these events, Lord Selby's voice wavered between heartbreak and disbelief as he endeavoured to reconcile the beauty of his wife's legacy with the dark fate that now loomed over every note played on that ill-fated instrument. Her memory, however, endured as a bittersweet, eternal echo for always. Lord Selby continued, his voice heavy with foreboding, as he recounted the mysterious disappearance of Stefan Keller, a young violin prodigy whose promise was as brilliant as it was brief. After a single haunting performance on the cursed violin, Stefan vanished without a trace from a locked music room in Selby Manor. His absence, sudden and unexplained, sent ripples of alarm through the artistic community and cast a pall of dread upon the household. Rumours spread like wildfire, each one more fantastical than the last, suggesting that Stefan had been claimed by the very curse that had haunted his late mentor. Yet, despite exhaustive searches and desperate inquiries, no sign of the prodigy was ever found. His fate remained an enigma, intensifying the already grim legend that shrouded the cursed instrument in mystery and despair. The mystery of his disappearance only deepened the allure of that ill-fated instrument, indeed tragic. As Lord Selby spoke, I observed Holmes's silent scrutiny of every subtle detail. His eyes, ever alert, registered the faint stain of ink on the client's sleeve, the worn scuffs upon his shoes, hinting at frequent visits to graveyards, and even the delicate scent of aged varnish clinging to his garments. Each minute observation was noted without a word, yet conveyed volumes through his penetrating gaze. I could not help but marvel at his ability to extract profound deductions from the most trivial of clues, a talent that never ceased to astonish me. In that moment, his silence spoke louder than any explanation could, heralding the promise of unraveling a complex mystery. Each silent glance confirmed his unerring insight, leaving me both humbled and eagerly anticipating the next deduction indeed. In his quiet observation, Holmes noted several peculiar details that escaped ordinary notice. There was a faint ink stain marring the fabric of Lord Selby's sleeve, a mark perhaps from a letter bearing bitter secrets. His shoes, visibly scuffed and worn, suggested numerous visits to somber cemeteries, places of mourning and reflection. Moreover, a subtle scent of aged varnish, reminiscent of ancient preserved treasures, clung to him. Each of these minor clues, seemingly trivial on their own, formed a tapestry of evidence that hinted at a deeper, more sinister narrative. Holmes's mind worked swiftly, connecting these observations into a coherent whole, his silent deductions promising to unravel hidden truths long concealed in shadows. Every detail, however minute, served as a stepping stone toward the revelation of a treacherous conspiracy indeed. Lord Selby paused, his countenance darkening as he hinted at long-held family secrets. There was an unspoken sorrow in his voice when he admitted that not all was as it seemed within his lineage. Whispers of scandal and hidden truths had long haunted the corridors of Selby Manor. Each secret, carefully guarded and seldom revealed, added layers of complexity to his already troubled narrative. It was apparent that the curse of the silver violin was merely a symptom of deeper familial discord and buried transgressions. His hesitance and measured words suggested that some of these secrets were far more sinister than the ill-fated instrument alone. The weight of concealed history loomed heavily over his every admission. Every whispered rumor deepened the mystery, binding his family's fate to the cursed legacy. In that charged moment, a single piercing glance passed between Holmes and me, conveying more than words ever could. His eyes, sharp with unspoken insight, revealed his certainty that this case was no ordinary matter, but a labyrinth of hidden truths waiting to be unraveled. I, in my habitual admiration, felt both excitement and trepidation at the promise of discovery. Our silent exchange, brief yet profound, affirmed that the enigma before us held depths beyond the surface. Without the need for further discourse, we acknowledged, in that quiet communion, that fate had conspired to embroil us in yet another most perplexing mystery. In that unspoken moment, our mutual resolve and anticipation merged, compelling us forward into a future of enigmatic challenges and unforeseen revelations. Thus, our journey continued without pause. Upon arriving at Selby Manor, Holmes and I were greeted by an atmosphere thick with foreboding and silent whispers of the past. The manor, ensconced in a veil of twilight, exuded a melancholy charm that belied its storied history. Every stone and crevice seemed to murmur secrets of bygone days, while shadows clung to the corners as if reluctant to depart. Our footsteps echoed upon the ancient floors, a quiet testament to the many tales that had unfolded within these walls. In the soft glow of a single candle, the manor revealed both its grandeur and its sorrow, a fitting stage for the mysteries that lay ahead. My companion's keen eyes surveyed each detail, already noting peculiarities that promised an intricate enigma, while I, in my simpler awe, could only marvel at the palpable tension that enveloped the very air. Thus, our investigation commenced with quiet, determined resolve in earnest. The door was opened by an elderly housekeeper whose demeanor bespoke years of hardship and secrets. Her hands trembled as she offered a hesitant greeting, her eyes darting nervously as if fearful of the cursed violin that lay hidden in the recesses of the manor. With each measured word, she revealed little more than a sorrowful acknowledgement of the strange occurrences that had haunted these halls for many years. Her voice, soft and trembling, spoke of a long-forgotten tragedy, and her countenance betrayed a terror born from witnessing inexplicable events. It was apparent that the mere mention of the violin stirred memories too painful to fully recount. Though her explanations were scarce, every tremor in her voice hinted at a deeper mystery, leaving me and Holmes with the unmistakable impression that more was concealed behind her quiet, fearful demeanour. The secret in her gaze whispered untold sorrows and impending peril. Not long after, we encountered a footman whose manner was marked by furtive glances and an air of nervous concealment. His eyes, darting about with evident wariness, avoided lingering on any subject that might betray forbidden knowledge. His speech was clipped and terse, revealing nothing beyond obligatory pleasantries, yet the subtle quiver in his tone suggested an inner turmoil. There was a palpable reluctance in his responses, as though each word might expose secrets he was sworn to protect. The manner in which he shuffled his feet and furtively scanned the room betrayed his anxiety, hinting at an awareness of matters best left unspoken. His silence, punctuated by hesitant answers, spoke volumes to Holmes and me. It was clear that beneath his seemingly unremarkable appearance lay a mind burdened with knowledge too dangerous to share openly. Every furtive glance confirmed that he guarded truths entwined with peril and dark mystery. Within the Manor's dimly lit study, Holmes turned his attention to the silver violin that had so long been the subject of whispered lore. With an air of detached curiosity, he examined the instrument with his characteristic precision. The silver strings, unlike the conventional gut or metal ones, glistened unnaturally in the faint light, as though imbued with a secret of their own. His fingers traced the delicate contours, pausing to inspect a series of strange runic carvings etched along its neck. Each symbol, etched with meticulous care, suggested origins steeped in ancient mysticism and forgotten lore. Holmes's analytical gaze darted over the instrument as he murmured softly, deciphering the hidden significance of each mark. He speculated that these inscriptions might be linked to a long-lost tradition of enchantment, intended to bestow the violin with otherworldly qualities. In his measured tone, he explained that such modifications were not the work of chance, but the deliberate handiwork of a craftsman whose intentions were as obscure as they were ingenious. As I listened, I found myself both enthralled and unsettled by the possibility that this instrument might carry more than mere superstition in its silvered frame. I could scarcely await the truth. Holmes took to the ancient tomes and brittle documents with a fervour that belied his usual calm detachment. In a quiet study of Selby Manor, he pored over faded ledgers and obscure records, unearthing a sordid tale that reached back to Prague. It appeared that the silver violin had been crafted by a disgraced luthier, whose ambition exceeded his talent, a man notorious for his obsessive quest to capture souls within the very music of his instruments. This luthier, once celebrated for his mastery, had fallen into ruin following scandalous accusations of dark arts and forbidden experiments. His reputation, tarnished by whispered rumours and public disgrace, had persisted as a grim reminder of the dangerous allure of artistic obsession. Holmes explained that the instrument's peculiar silver strings and enigmatic runes were the legacy of this ill-fated craftsman, whose methods bordered on the occult. Every minute detail of its construction bore the mark of a man determined to infuse his creations with more than mere melody, but with the spectral essence of lost souls. Thus, the violin was not a simple heirloom, but a vessel of tragic ambition and a stain upon its maker's soul. A grim testament to forsaken dreams. Local superstition held that the silver violin was more than a mere instrument. It was said to harbour the spirit of its first master. According to ancient lore, any musician who played the violin with genuine passion risked invoking the ghostly presence of its original owner. It was believed that the notes, imbued with supernatural energy, would awaken an ethereal force capable of seizing the soul of the performer. Such legends, passed down through hushed voices and shadowed corners of London, imbued the instrument with an aura of dread and mystique. Many regarded the haunting melodies as warnings, harbingers of misfortune for those who dared to court its spectral influence. Holmes, ever sceptical yet unyieldingly curious, regarded these tales as nothing more than the product of fevered imaginations and old-world superstition. Nonetheless, he admitted that the uncanny quality of the violin's tone could stir emotions deep within even the most rational mind. It seemed that beneath the layers of myth lay a kernel of truth, a reminder of the power music held over the human spirit. In this way, the legend of the possessed instrument was woven into the fabric of its existence, a perpetual dance of art and mystery. Examining the remnants of the tragic performance, Holmes meticulously reconstructed the final moments of Stefan Keller. He scrutinized a solitary fingerprint on the ornate music stand, a subtle but telling remnant that spoke of hurried departure. A trace of ash, dark and foreboding, lay undisturbed near the base of the stand, suggesting the recent use of a flame or the residue of an unknown substance. Moreover, a torn scrap of sheet music was discovered beneath the old carpet, its fragments bearing cryptic notations that defied immediate interpretation. Holmes's calm deliberation and relentless pursuit of truth were evident as he pieced together these disparate clues. Each element, though seemingly insignificant in isolation, contributed to a larger narrative of intrigue and despair. It became clear that Stefan's final moments had been marked by an eerie confluence of chance and calculated misdirection. The silent language of fingerprints, ash, and paper was deciphered by Holmes with an acuity that never ceased to astonish me, revealing a secret far more intricate than even the most elaborate superstition might suggest. In the hushed silence that followed, every minuscule detail assumed a significance that foretold the dark, hidden narrative behind the tragic vanishings, beyond all comprehension indeed. After all these revelations, Holmes turned to me with a look that blended dry wit and understated amusement. He recounted each deduction with a calm precision that left me both bewildered and admiring his inexhaustible genius. His manner was neither boastful nor condescending, merely a quiet assertion of his unique ability to perceive what others overlooked. I found myself caught between incredulity and admiration, marveling at how effortlessly he connected disparate clues into a coherent whole. His explanations, delivered in measured tones, transformed even the most mundane details into threads of a grand tapestry of intrigue. I could not help but smile at his subtle humour, which lightened the gravity of our investigation. In that moment, I felt both a sense of relief and a deepening curiosity for the mysteries that lay ahead, knowing that no case was ever truly closed when Holmes was involved. Indeed, our adventure continued unabated. It was during our subsequent inquiry that Holmes uncovered a most startling connection. In one of his many perusals of the Selby records, he discovered that the disappearance of the young prodigy, Stefan Keller, was entwined with the secret life of Lord Selby's estranged daughter, Isidora. According to hidden correspondence and memoirs, Isidora had maintained a romance with the missing musician. This revelation, as it was explosive, shed light on a motive previously shrouded in mystery. Holmes noted that the distant manner in which Isidora had always conducted herself belied an inner passion and sorrow. The evidence suggested that their love, though kept hidden from the prying eyes of society, had grown into an intense liaison that defied the rigid expectations of her aristocratic family. Such a union, fraught with both desire and despair, could have easily led to desperate actions. In his characteristic measured tone, Holmes expressed his astonishment at how a personal secret could ripple outward, influencing events far beyond the confines of a lonely manor. I listened in awe as he detailed these connections, the weight of every word deepening the intrigue of a case that was rapidly becoming more than a mere mystery beyond all measure. Holmes soon turned his attention to the enigmatic figure of Isidora herself, a woman whose silence spoke volumes. Though she was seldom seen in public, whispers of her involvement with Stefan Keller had persisted over the years. In hushed conversations and discreet glances exchanged among the household, hints of her secret were all too evident. It became clear that her reticence was not born of indifference, but of a fierce desire to protect a love that society would never condone. I observed, with both sympathy and curiosity, how even the briefest encounter with her revealed a depth of emotion concealed behind a facade of stoicism. Holmes, with his customary incisiveness, deduced that Isidora's reticence masked an inner turmoil and a determination to preserve the remnants of a forbidden passion. Her silence was a shield, crafted to deflect scrutiny and preserve her dignity amidst scandal. As I listened to Holmes's careful analysis, I could not help but wonder at the paradox of a woman who, while guarded by silence, left behind a trail of subtle clues. Her secret was not merely personal, but had ramifications that touched every facet of the case. Its implications resonated deeply within our investigation, indeed profoundly. Examining the silver violin with meticulous care, Holmes discovered an unexpected feature that deepened the enigma. As he turned the instrument over in his hands, his fingers traced along its smooth, cold surface until they met a subtle irregularity near the scroll. With deliberate precision, he pried open a concealed compartment, hidden from casual inspection by an ingenious design. Within this secret space lay a second sheet of music, far older than the instrument itself, its edges yellowed with time and delicate inscriptions etched in a faded hand. The music was written in a cipher that defied immediate comprehension, each note and symbol arranged in an order that suggested a deeper, almost mystical meaning. Holmes's eyes gleamed with a mixture of triumph and curiosity as he carefully removed the fragile parchment. He explained, in his measured tones, that this hidden composition was likely intended to convey a message known only to its creator, a message that might reveal the true nature of the instrument's alleged curse. The discovery, unexpected and profound, shifted the entire direction of our inquiry, suggesting that the violin was more than a simple heirloom. It was a repository of secrets, a relic imbued with history and mystery, waiting patiently to divulge its long-held truth to a mind capable of deciphering its language. This extraordinary find, far exceeding our initial expectations, emboldened Holmes to consider that the instrument's mysteries were interwoven with darker forces, urging us to press onward into uncharted realms of intrigue beyond all conceivable limits. Holmes then set to work deciphering the cryptic message embedded within the ancient sheet music. With the intensity of a scholar and the detachment of a surgeon, he scrutinized each symbol and note, methodically testing hypotheses and cross-referencing obscure musical treatises. He explained that the cipher was not merely ornamental, but served as a deliberate alteration to the violin's design, a modification meant to imbue its sound with a disquieting power. According to his theory, the altered frequencies were capable of shattering glass and disorienting the senses of those who played it with genuine emotion. Every mark on the parchment was a deliberate stroke, intended to encode a hidden warning or perhaps a promise of retribution. As he deciphered the mysterious notation, his voice remained as calm as ever, yet his eyes shone with an unmistakable fervor. The message spoke of betrayal, of a carefully orchestrated plan set in motion by a rival with a deep-seated grudge. It was a revelation that not only explained Stefan Keller's inexplicable disappearance, but also hinted at a broader conspiracy lurking beneath the veneer of a simple curse. With each passing moment, the cipher unraveled further, weaving together strands of jealousy, ambition, and revenge. Holmes's deductions reached a crescendo as he laid bare the sinister alteration in the violin, a truth that would forever alter our understanding of the case. His methodical decoding illuminated hidden motives and clandestine rivalries, and with each word unveiled, the layers of deception grew ever more profound beyond all conceivable limits. I listened with rapt attention as Holmes revealed the true nature of what had long been mistaken for a curse. His measured tone conveyed that the silver violin, far from being haunted by supernatural forces, had been deliberately altered to produce specific, dangerous frequencies. According to his deductions, the instrument had been modified to emit vibrations capable of shattering delicate glass and disturbing the composure of any musician daring to play with genuine passion. Such engineered sound waves, he explained, could induce an overwhelming sense of disorientation, leaving the player vulnerable to fear and confusion. It was not the work of ghosts or ancient spells, but the calculated handiwork of an individual intent on sabotaging musical careers. This revelation, delivered with his customary detached brilliance, shattered the romantic notion of a cursed relic. Instead, it painted a picture of cold, methodical revenge, where art and science merged in a sinister display of calculated malice. Every nuance in Holmes's explanation resonated with the precision of a well-conducted symphony of evidence, leaving me both astonished and relieved to learn that rational means underlay the apparent mysticism. In that moment, it became evident that the curse was but a facade, designed to cloak the true intentions of one whose bitterness had driven him to transform an instrument of beauty into a weapon of ruin. I could scarcely believe that such a malevolent artifice had been hidden in plain sight, waiting for the right moment to wreak havoc upon an unsuspecting victim. Thus, the evidence spoke clearly, dispelling all myths and revealing a plot both cunning and cruel. Holmes then traced the origins of the tampering to a most unlikely source. He deduced that the modifications to the silver violin were the work of a descendant of that disgraced Prague luthier, whose own fortunes had suffered ruin at the hands of a rival musician. According to Holmes's findings, this man had once been a celebrated virtuoso until his career was overshadowed by the meteoric rise of Stefan Keller. Consumed by envy and driven by bitter resentment, the rival had set about exacting his revenge. Holmes explained that the rival, whose identity was carefully concealed by modesty and deceit, had orchestrated a scheme to discredit Keller by transforming the instrument into a tool of sabotage. In secret correspondence and hidden ledgers, evidence pointed to financial ruin and professional jealousy as the primary motivators behind the descendant's actions. With relentless precision, Holmes laid out how the rival had exploited his intimate knowledge of the instrument's construction to engineer subtle alterations, ensuring that its sound would be both haunting and destabilizing. Every modification, from the choice of materials to the intricate engravings, had been executed with meticulous care, a testament to the rival's profound understanding of both music and machinery. The meticulous planning behind the sabotage revealed a cold, calculated desire not only to undermine Keller, but also to tarnish the legacy of an art form held sacred by many. Holmes's dispassionate tone contrasted sharply with the turbulent emotions that such revelations evoked in those who had suffered from the rival's actions. I listened, increasingly aware of the dark undercurrents that had led to this intricate web of deceit and rivalry. In that moment, the bitter interplay of ambition and envy became unmistakably clear, painting a portrait of a man driven to extraordinary lengths by a wounded pride that could not tolerate the success of another indeed. Holmes proceeded to lay bare the full extent of the rivalry that had set the stage for this elaborate deception. He deduced that the tampered violin was not an isolated act of malice, but a carefully orchestrated plan designed specifically to drive Stefan Keller to the brink of madness. Every modification, he explained, had been calibrated to unsettle the musician, rendering him unable to perform with his customary poise. The rival's envy had been so profound that he had meticulously designed the alterations to evoke a sense of dread and instability with every note. In his systematic deconstruction of the case, Holmes demonstrated that the frequency shifts and subtle distortions were not accidental but deliberate, engineered to impair Keller's concentration and erode his confidence. This revelation, chilling in its precision, cast a long shadow over Keller's meteoric rise in the musical world. Holmes's analysis revealed that the rival had banked upon every minor misstep, every overlooked nuance in Keller's performance, to orchestrate a downfall that was as much psychological as it was physical. The intricate interplay of sound and sabotage was laid out with such clarity that even I could not help but feel a pang of sorrow for the prodigy ensnared by such cruelty. Each word Holmes uttered painted a picture of a rivalry fueled by a toxic blend of ambition and malice, where the stakes were nothing less than the very soul of a musical genius. I found myself both horrified and deeply moved by the extent to which envy could distort the course of a life, leaving behind scars that no amount of talent could ever fully heal. Thus, with each revelation, the bitter rivalry was laid bare in all its cruelty and complexity, leaving me to ponder the tragic cost of unbridled envy beyond all measure. Holmes finally explained that Stefan Keller's disappearance was not the result of an ancient curse, but rather a deliberate act engineered to cast blame upon the violin itself. According to his deductions, the rival musician had orchestrated Keller's vanishing as part of an elaborate scheme to deflect suspicion from his own treacherous designs. By tampering with the instrument and engineering its haunting properties, the saboteur sought to create an aura of supernatural dread that would both distract and disarm any inquiry. In this cunning stratagem, the curse was nothing more than a ruse, a veneer designed to veil the true motives behind Keller's sudden absence. Holmes argued that every element of the case, from the whispered legends to the subtle alterations in the violin's construction, had been manipulated to lead us astray. The disappearance, therefore, was not an act of fate, but a meticulously planned deception, crafted by a man whose envy and ambition had driven him to commit unspeakable acts. I listened with a mix of awe and sorrow, realizing that the true enemy was not a spectral force, but a bitter human heart capable of unspeakable cruelty. Thus, the deception was laid bare, exposing a plot of treachery. I found myself both excited and apprehensive as Holmes announced that we were to attend a high society concert at Selby Manor, an event carefully orchestrated to draw out the conspirators lurking behind the cursed violin's dark legacy. With a cool detachment that belied the significance of our undertaking, Holmes explained that the concert would serve not only as a celebration of musical excellence, but also as a clever trap to expose those responsible for the malevolent alterations inflicted upon the instrument. As our guests gathered, the air was thick with anticipation and an undercurrent of unspoken intrigue. Each attendee, drawn from London's musical elite, carried with him a mixture of admiration and suspicion, their refined exteriors masking hidden motives and whispered secrets. Holmes had taken meticulous care to arrange the seating and the performance, ensuring that every note played would contribute to the unfolding drama. His plan, as intricate as the chords of a well-composed symphony, was designed to force the saboteur into revealing himself through a single misstep. The stage was set for a confrontation that promised to be as intellectually stimulating as it was emotionally charged, with every detail measured and every nuance anticipated. I listened, both in awe and a touch of trepidation, as Holmes's voice conveyed the assurance of one who had unraveled countless mysteries. I could not help but feel that beneath the polished veneer of society lay a web of deceit, and that this evening would prove pivotal in our quest to unmask the villain behind the cursed violin. Thus, with a mixture of determination and quiet excitement, we stepped into the charged atmosphere of the concert, our hearts pounding with the promise of revelation and the thrill of impending justice. Thus, our hearts brimmed with resolute hope for unveiling long-hidden truths indeed silently. At the heart of Holmes's plan lay a subtle mechanism designed to capture the altered sound of the cursed violin. With meticulous care, he had arranged for hidden microphones to be discreetly installed throughout the hall, their presence known only to him. These ingenious devices were capable of recording the eerie frequencies produced by the instrument, frequencies that deviated sharply from its natural timbre. Holmes explained that these recordings would serve as irrefutable evidence, enabling him to trace the precise modifications that had been inflicted upon the violin. Every note, every whisper of a vibration was to be scrutinized for irregularities, for a telltale sign that the instrument's haunting quality was no product of mere superstition. As the concert progressed, the subtle hum of these devices blended with the music, unnoticed by the oblivious audience, yet pivotal in unraveling the mystery. I could sense the quiet intensity with which Holmes regarded these recordings, his mind already mapping the correlation between the sound waves and the clandestine actions of the saboteur. The hidden frequencies, he asserted, would reveal a pattern, a rhythmic signature of malice embedded within the music itself. This signature, he believed, would expose the precise moment when the violin was altered, and by extension, point to the hand that engineered its cursed transformation. Thus, every captured note was a silent testament to a carefully laid trap, a whisper of truth in a symphony of deceit. With each passing measure, the evidence accumulated, promising to illuminate the dark corners of this nefarious plot and ultimately bring the malefactor into the light of justice. In that quiet symphony of hidden technology and artifice, every sound captured was a subtle clue, silently testifying to the meticulous design of our trap. Thus, our plan to expose the saboteur advanced with precise, unerring momentum. Every guest faced an impending reckoning with truth. Adopting an appearance most inconspicuous, Holmes assumed the guise of a humble musician as he took his place among the performers. Disguised with deliberate simplicity, he mingled seamlessly with the guests, his eyes ever alert and his senses attuned to every nuance of conversation and note alike. I followed him with a mixture of admiration and apprehension, noting how his subtle changes in posture and speech rendered him almost unrecognizable to even the keenest observer. His disguise was not merely a physical alteration, but an embodiment of his strategic acumen, allowing him to observe the proceedings without drawing undue attention. Throughout the performance, he maintained a deliberate silence, yet every gesture and glance communicated volumes of silent deduction. I could almost sense his inner workings as he scrutinized the crowd, noting the smallest twitch or whisper that might betray a hidden agenda. In this carefully constructed charade, Holmes transformed himself into one with the melody, his presence both part of the music and apart from it. Every word uttered by the musicians, every note resonating through the hall, was absorbed by his attentive mind. His ability to blend into the surroundings while remaining ever vigilant was a testament to his unparalleled genius. I marveled at his skill, aware that beneath this unassuming exterior lay a mind orchestrating an intricate web of observations. The effectiveness of his disguise lent a deceptive air to the evening, one in which the true architect of our trap might be revealed by a single misstep or overheard remark. Thus, hidden among the crowd, Holmes prepared to unveil the secrets that lay beneath the surface of this grand concert, his keen intellect poised to intercept any sign of treachery that might unravel the carefully laid plans. Thus, his disguise allowed him to remain unseen and omniscient. Midway through the performance, as the music swelled and the tension in the hall reached a crescendo of anticipation, Holmes executed a maneuver so audacious that it left the assembled elite in a state of shocked disbelief. Without warning, he staggered on stage, his body succumbing to what appeared to be a violent collapse. In that charged moment, I felt my heart seize in alarm, for even the most brilliant of minds is not immune to the frailties of the human body. Yet, as the gasps of the audience filled the room, a keen observer would have noted that Holmes's fall was too measured, too precise to be a mere accident of nature. His face, though contorted in apparent distress, retained a glimmer of the detached amusement that had become his trademark. It was a calculated performance, a theatrical ploy designed to unnerve the saboteur who lurked among us. For in that very instant, the conspirator, emboldened by the perceived weakness of our detective, made a fateful move, attempting to seize the cursed violin amid the ensuing confusion. I watched, aghast, as the moment unfolded with a clarity that only Holmes's artful stratagem could orchestrate. His collapse, a ruse of extraordinary ingenuity, was intended to provoke the guilty party into revealing himself. The orchestration of this ruse was, in itself, a masterpiece of deceptive brilliance. Every eye in the hall was fixed on Holmes, whose fall was but a prelude to the unraveling of the saboteur's carefully constructed facade. As the performance reached its dramatic climax, I sensed that the trap had been sprung, and that the ensuing confrontation would expose secrets long buried beneath layers of deceit. In that critical juncture, time seemed to suspend, each heartbeat a measured note in the symphony of retribution that was about to be composed, leaving us teetering on the brink of a revelation that promised to upend everything we believed about the case. In that final moment of orchestrated chaos, the artifice of the performance left no doubt that our trap had been sprung. Every guest faced an impending reckoning with truth. During the performance, as the notes soared and tension peaked, the saboteur, hidden among the distinguished guests, could no longer contain his urge to act. Observing every subtle gesture and murmured conversation, Holmes's eyes locked onto a man whose nervous demeanor and furtive glances betrayed his guilt. It was at this critical juncture that the saboteur, overcome by a desire to seize the cursed violin, moved with haste. In his eagerness to procure the instrument, he abandoned all pretense of discretion and made his move with clumsy determination. I watched in a mixture of horror and fascination as he reached out, his hand trembling with both anticipation and trepidation, to grasp the violin. His action, impulsive yet calculated, inadvertently exposed him to the scrutiny of those gathered. Holmes, ever vigilant, did not miss a single nuance. His eyes flashed with a piercing clarity that spoke volumes of his unerring deductive power. In that instant, as the saboteur fumbled with the instrument, his cover was blown. A murmur ran through the assembled audience, and the air seemed to hold its breath as all eyes turned toward the errant individual. His attempt, meant to be a secretive theft, had transformed into a public confession of guilt. The mounting tension was palpable, and even I, despite my admiration for Holmes, felt a chill of foreboding. The saboteur's desperate act, intended to reclaim his power through the cursed violin, now served as the final piece in the intricate puzzle that Holmes had so masterfully assembled. His error was as conspicuous as it was damning, marking the moment when his carefully hidden treachery became impossible to conceal, setting the stage for the dramatic revelations that were yet to come. Thus, the saboteur's reckoning was sealed, leaving no room for escape, truly, a final, dire moment. Holmes then directed our attention to the identity of the saboteur. With meticulous precision, he revealed that the villain was none other than Stefan Keller's former music tutor. This man, whose own career had been destroyed by Keller's meteoric rise, had long harbored a seething bitterness born of perceived injustice. His previous prominence in the musical world had been eclipsed by Keller's brilliance, leaving him embittered and desperate. Driven by envy, he had devised an elaborate scheme to undermine Keller's reputation by tampering with the cursed violin. Every subtle modification to the instrument was his handiwork, executed with the cold efficiency of a man consumed by vengeance. Holmes detailed how the tutor had manipulated every element, from the choice of materials to the intricate engravings, ensuring that the instrument's altered tones would unsettle and disorient the player. His careful planning and ruthless ambition had culminated in a plot that not only sought to ruin Keller's career, but also to fabricate a curse capable of inciting public terror. As I listened, I could not help but feel a twinge of pity for a man whose ambitions had been so twisted by jealousy that they transformed beauty into a weapon. The tutor's downfall was complete, his ruin meticulously orchestrated to serve as the catalyst for the dark conspiracy we now sought to unravel. Just as the tension reached its zenith, Holmes unveiled a twist that none had anticipated. With a calm that belied the storm of revelations, he disclosed that Stefan Keller was, in fact, alive. The prodigy had orchestrated his own disappearance as a stratagem to outmaneuver the saboteur and protect his reputation from scandal. Through a series of covert communications and carefully staged diversions, Keller had managed to vanish from public view, only to remain at large, biding his time for the opportune moment to reappear. Holmes's words struck me like a bolt of lightning, for the very notion of Keller's survival defied all expectations. It was a double deception, a masterful ruse designed to mislead even the most astute observers. The revelation not only upended our understanding of the case, but also cast a new light on the intricate web of betrayal and ambition that had ensnared us all. In that moment, it became clear that nothing in this elaborate scheme was as it seemed, and every piece of evidence, had been manipulated to obscure the truth. With the gathering storm of deception now fully exposed, Holmes moved to the final act of our intricate performance. Revealing that the real violin had been swapped for a decoy, he unraveled the entire scheme with the clarity of a master conductor. One by one, he laid bare the layers of treachery that had clouded the truth, exposing each conspirator's hidden role in the plot. The decoy had served as a masterstroke, distracting those who wished to perpetuate the myth of a cursed instrument, while safeguarding the true evidence needed to bring the saboteur to justice. As his explanation unfolded, even the most skeptical among our company were compelled to acknowledge the brilliance of his deductions. It was a moment of catharsis, a final, decisive act that stripped away the artifice of deceit and left only the unvarnished truth. In that quiet, resolute moment, the conspirators were unmasked, and the tragic tapestry of rivalry and revenge was laid bare before us. After the tumult of recent events, Holmes and I returned to the familiar confines of 221B Baker Street, where the case lay bare before us amid the comforting clutter of our modest quarters. The weight of revelations pressed upon our hearts as we settled into our customary seats, the silence punctuated only by the quiet crackle of the fire. Holmes, his expression inscrutable as ever, began to recount his latest deductions with calm precision. In that warm and intimate environment, the perplexing strands of our investigation converged into a coherent narrative. He explained how the seemingly supernatural curse, which had long mystified us, was nothing more than a cunning fabrication. His voice, measured and detached, carried the steady cadence of reason as he detailed every minute clue that had led him to unravel the intricate web of deception. Each observation was interwoven with the next, forming a tapestry of evidence that was as brilliant as it was irrefutable. I listened with awe and relief, for the familiar surroundings of Baker Street lent a sense of normality to the extraordinary events we had witnessed. In that moment, the stark contrast between the chaotic mystery of the cursed violin and the simple comforts of home was most profound. It was as though our return to this sanctuary offered a final, clarifying pause before the true nature of the case would be laid open to us, setting the stage for the ensuing explanation that would expose all truths, thereby revealing all hidden facts. Holmes proceeded to methodically unravel the intricate ruse that had enshrouded the entire affair. In a voice as measured as it was incisive, he explained that the supposed curse was nothing more than a cleverly orchestrated deception designed to manipulate both public sentiment and the unsuspecting minds of those involved. He described how psychological manipulation had been employed with artful subtlety. Each carefully placed rumor and every whisper of supernatural dread intended to mask the true, human origin of the instrument's altered properties. Moreover, Holmes revealed that the instrument's strings had been chemically tampered with. A varnish laced with a mild hallucinogen had been applied so as to subtly influence the perceptions of any musician daring to play it with genuine emotion. This chemical alteration, he argued, was the linchpin of the entire stratagem, ensuring that the violin would produce eerie, disorienting tones capable of unsettling even the steadiest nerves. As he laid out the sequence of events, he traced the origins of the ruse to a meticulously planned campaign of subterfuge, one that involved the careful staging of coincidences and the exploitation of long-held superstitions. Every element, from the placement of the hidden microphones to the precise timing of the musical performance, had been orchestrated to create an illusion of a curse so potent that it defied logical explanation. I listened in rapt attention as Holmes detailed each step, his deductions forming an unassailable chain of reasoning that left no room for doubt. His explanation was as elegant as it was damning, unmasking the artifice behind what had seemed an unearthly phenomenon and restoring reason to a situation that had long been clouded by myth. Thus, with each considered detail, Holmes dismantled the facade of mysticism and showed every eerie claim to be a calculated ruse, leaving no doubt. Holmes then turned his attention to the silver violin itself, scrutinizing it with a devotion that bordered on reverence. He explained that the instrument's unusual qualities were not the product of mere chance, but the result of deliberate chemical tampering. A thin layer of varnish, laced with a mild hallucinogen, had been applied to its surface, subtly altering its acoustics and endowing it with an eerie resonance. This modification, he asserted, exploited old superstitions, transforming the instrument into a harbinger of disquiet among those who dared to play it. According to Holmes, the chemical agent was designed to influence the player's perceptions, inducing a state of unease and amplifying every whispered note into a chorus of dread. He detailed how this varnish interacted with the natural properties of the silver, creating a sound that was both captivating and unnerving. The interplay of science and art, as he described, was as ingenious as it was insidious. As he spoke, I found myself both fascinated and disturbed by the notion that a mere substance could wield such power over the human mind. Holmes's dissection of the violin's secrets revealed a careful orchestration of material science and musical genius. Every nuance of the instrument's altered timbre was accounted for in his methodical explanation, leaving no room for the supernatural. Instead, the true terror lay in the cold, calculated manipulation of chemical compounds to produce a most effective illusion of a curse. In unraveling these secrets, Holmes not only demystified the legend, but also laid bare the ingenuity of those who sought to exploit it for their own vindictive purposes. Thus, with logic and art, he restored reason and dispelled lingering doubt about the instrument. Holmes then turned his attention to the deeper motives that lay hidden behind the public myth of a cursed violin. With a voice that blended icy detachment with quiet passion, he revealed that the ancient legend had been nothing but a smokescreen, devised to conceal very human impulses of jealousy, professional rivalry, and greed. According to his meticulous deductions, the narrative of a supernatural curse was carefully contrived by individuals with much to lose. In particular, a bitter rivalry had festered between two prominent figures in the musical world, a rising star whose brilliance eclipsed a seasoned veteran whose pride had been wounded. This envy, Holmes explained, had driven the aggrieved party to orchestrate a campaign of subterfuge. Every whisper of a curse, every subtle alteration in the instrument's design, was but a calculated attempt to tarnish a reputation and secure dominance in an industry governed by both talent and influence. He recounted how professional jealousy had transformed personal ambition into a vendetta, where the stakes were not measured in mere accolades, but in the very soul of artistic endeavour. I listened, struck by the tragic irony that such human frailty could be disguised as an otherworldly phenomenon. Holmes's words cut through the mysticism, laying bare the raw, unadorned truth, that behind every legend there often lurks a tale of envy and ambition, a tale as old as time itself. In exposing this crime of jealousy and rivalry, he restored clarity and reason to a case that had long been obscured by myth and superstition. His explanation, rich in detail and unflinching in its scrutiny, served as a poignant reminder that even the most captivating legends are, at their core, the products of all too human failings. Thus, in revealing this crime of jealousy and rivalry, Holmes restored truth over a fabricated myth. Stefan Keller's ingenious Disappearance remains one of the most baffling maneuvers in recent memory, and I listened in astonishment as Holmes recounted its details. The prodigy, facing immense pressure from the saboteur and the looming threat to his reputation, had contrived to vanish without a trace. Meticulously planning every step of his exit, Keller staged a disappearance that left even the keenest observers confounded. He orchestrated a series of misleading clues and fabricated documents, all designed to create the illusion that he had fallen victim to the cursed violin's malignant influence. Holmes noted that while Keller's ingenuity was indeed commendable, his belief that he could outsmart both the saboteur and Holmes himself was marked by a certain naivety. Every calculated move in his elaborate ruse was intended to divert suspicion and secure his safety. In his characteristically calm manner, Holmes detailed how Keller exploited the very myth that had haunted him, transforming that dark legend into a clever cloak for his escape. I felt a mixture of admiration and concern For though Keller's plan was brilliant, it placed him in a perilously unstable position. As the full scope of his stratagem became apparent, it was clear that his disappearance was not born of despair, but was a daring maneuver, a final gambit in a case steeped in human folly. Such audacity, commendable in its inventiveness, carried an inherent risk that now hung over Keller like a dark cloud, reminding us that even brilliant schemes may falter under unforeseen consequences beyond doubt. After hearing Holmes's thorough explanation, I could not help but feel a tumult of admiration and frustration. His ability to cut through layers of superstition and deception left me awestruck and slightly exasperated at my own inability to grasp what his keen intellect revealed so effortlessly. In his calm, unwavering manner, Holmes had dismantled the elaborate ruse with such precision that the case, once shrouded in mystery, now lay open like a well-worn ledger. I marvelled at his capacity for deduction, yet found myself chiding my own slower pace in understanding the evidence that had been laid before us. It was as though I were perennially a step behind him, compelled to scramble to keep up with his swift leaps of logic. In that moment, I experienced a poignant blend of respect and envy, wishing I might share even a fraction of his insight. Nevertheless, his revelations restored order to our investigation, and despite my frustrations, I recognized that I was witnessing the very essence of genius at work, a brilliance that, though cold and detached, illuminated our path to truth. At last, Holmes offered his final remark with his signature dry wit. In a tone as detached as it was incisive, he declared, "Ghosts are merely the handiwork of men too clumsy to conceal their footprints." His words, delivered without a trace of emotion, carried the full weight of his unyielding logic and left no doubt about his dismissal of the supernatural. As he resumed playing his violin with serene resolve, the elaborate charade that had long obscured the case dissolved into a testament of human folly. I found myself reflecting on the irony that what was once perceived as a curse was, in truth, a masterful deception wrought by ambition and envy. His succinct summation cut through the lingering shadows of myth, reminding us that the most formidable spectres are those conjured by our own minds rather than by any other worldly force. And so, with that final observation, our case closed, leaving behind a trail of unanswered questions and the indelible mark of human ingenuity on the fabric of our investigation, indeed. I sat in my armchair at Baker Street, my thoughts swirling with admiration and unease following yet another extraordinary case. Holmes, with his characteristic disregard for personal safety, had once again plunged into the heart of danger without a moment's hesitation, his mind as unflappable as ever. I could not help but reflect on the eerie calm that seemed to follow his every daring escapade, as if the tumult of the world outside were neatly confined to the chaos of our investigations. In the quiet that settled upon our modest quarters, I found solace in the gentle murmur of the fire and the steady rhythm of Holmes's measured explanations. Yet, beneath this serene exterior lay a profound truth. That genius, for all its brilliance, often dances on the precipice of recklessness. It is a quality that both inspires and alarms those of us who trail in its wake. As I scribbled notes in my journal, I felt the weight of another adventure etched upon my memory, a testament to a life spent chasing shadows, where every case left its mark on my soul, and where the balance between danger and discovery was both delicate and eternal. Thus, I remained ever resolute. On one rare occasion, Holmes allowed a glimpse of his inner world, a moment of candidness that surprised me deeply. In a quiet, reflective tone, he confessed that it was not the spectre of danger that troubled him, but the suffocating monotony of a life devoid of mystery. He admitted that the relentless pursuit of enigmas provided him with the only genuine thrill in an otherwise predictable existence. His words, so uncharacteristically personal, carried a tinge of wistfulness that softened his usual clinical detachment. I listened, struck by the vulnerability hidden behind his steely exterior. In that brief confession, Holmes revealed that beneath the armor of intellectual superiority lay a man who, too, feared the blandness of ordinary life. It was a rare admission, that rendered him both more human and more enigmatic than ever before. I marveled at that singular glimpse, which revealed the paradox of his very being. Not long after our reflective conversation, a knock at the door interrupted our quiet contemplation. I rose to answer, and found a carriage had halted outside Baker Street. The visitor, a man of evident desperation, carried an air of urgency that immediately piqued our interest. His manner was both haggard and refined, as if the weight of untold misfortunes had etched lines of worry upon his face. Without preamble, he introduced himself with a strained politeness that hinted at a burden far greater than his modest appearance suggested. His eyes darted nervously as he explained his plight, each word laced with a palpable anxiety that resonated with the familiar aura of unresolved mysteries. It was clear that adventure was never far behind when such a troubled soul approached our threshold, and I felt a stir of anticipation for the next chapter in our unfolding saga. Truly, fate, it seemed, beckoned. With the arrival of the new client, Holmes delivered his signature parting remark, a final salvo that encapsulated his unyielding pursuit of truth. In his measured tone, he declared that every case, no matter how shrouded in darkness or mired in deception, ultimately served as a stepping stone toward greater understanding. His words, laced with a dry wit that provoked both admiration and humor, left me with a profound sense of anticipation. "If the world insists on sending me ghosts," he said coolly, "the least I can do is entertain them." Such a remark encapsulated the essence of his character, a man whose brilliance lay in transforming the mundane into the extraordinary. As he resumed playing his violin with serene resolve that belied the chaos we had just navigated, I felt our adventure was far from over. The promise of new mysteries beckoned on the horizon, and I knew that in time, fate would lead us into the heart of another enigma. With renewed hope and quiet determination, I prepared for the next case, certain that our journey together was destined to continue in ever more remarkable fashion. Thus, our shared path of mystery and justice pressed onward, unwavering and resolute. Holmes leaned back in his chair, his eyes fixed on the dancing shadows cast by the flickering fireplace. "You see, Watson," he began, his tone measured and thoughtful, "our case, like so many before it, reminds us that beneath every legend lies a web of human frailty, envy, ambition, and the subtle art of deception. It is not the supernatural we must fear, but the capacity of man to twist truth for his own ends." I nodded, absorbing the weight of his words as they resonated with the quiet dignity of our shared pursuit of justice. He continued, a slight, knowing smile touching his lips. "In the end, it is the minutest misstep, a moment of unchecked pride perhaps, that proves fatal for a criminal. One must wonder, what do you think was the saboteur's greatest error? Was it his overconfidence in concealing his envy, or the very act of tampering with an instrument of such beauty that betrayed his intent?" I found myself compelled to reflect on his challenge, a question that seemed to echo in the stillness of our room, inviting each listener to decipher the intricacies of human ambition and its inevitable downfall. Before we retired for the night, I added, "Dear reader, if this mystery has stirred your curiosity and provoked your own theories, I invite you to share your thoughts in the comments below. Subscribe for more adventures into the enigmatic world of Sherlock Holmes, and share this tale with friends and family who revel in the thrill of a well-spun mystery." With that, our conversation drew to a close, leaving behind a lingering invitation to unravel the secrets hidden within every human act.